When the economy collapses and currency becomes worthless paper, what will you trade for food, medicine, or safety? Most people think they're prepared because they've stocked up on supplies, but they've forgotten one critical truth. You can't store everything forever, and you can't survive alone. In a post-collapse world, bartering becomes the lifeline that separates those who thrive from those who barely survive. But here's the problem. Most people are hoarding the wrong things. They're stacking gold coins that no one can eat, or storing items that lose value the moment chaos hits. If you want to become a valuable trading partner when society crumbles, you need to understand what people will desperately need, not what sounds good in theory. This isn't about collecting random supplies, it's about strategic stockpiling of high-demand items that will make you indispensable when the world goes dark. If you're serious about survival and want to learn what truly matters when money means nothing, subscribe now, because what you're about to discover could save your life and the lives of those you care about. Let's get one thing straight. Bartering isn't a romantic idea from the old days. It's the brutal reality that emerges when governments fail, supply chains break, and modern conveniences vanish. History proves this over and over. During the Great Depression, people traded whatever they had for food. In Venezuela's economic collapse, citizens bartered household items for basic necessities because their currency became toilet paper. In war-torn regions across the Middle East and Africa, communities survived by trading goods and services because formal economies ceased to exist. The lesson is clear. When crisis strikes, tangible goods with immediate utility become the new currency. But not all goods are created equal. Some items skyrocket in value while others become deadweight. Understanding this difference is what separates smart preppers from desperate scavengers. The first item everyone will want is clean water and water purification supplies. Water is life, literally. The human body can survive weeks without food, but only 3 days without water. When infrastructure fails, municipal water systems stop flowing, wells become contaminated, and bottled water disappears from shelves within hours. This isn't speculation, it's documented reality. After Hurricane Katrina, clean water became more valuable than money in affected areas. During the Flint water crisis, residents relied on bottled water for years. In a true collapse scenario, access to clean water determines who lives and who dies. This is why water purification tablets, portable filters like LifeStraw or Sawyer Mini, and even basic bleach for purification become incredibly valuable barter items. A single water filter can purify thousands of gallons, making it worth its weight in gold to someone whose family is drinking contaminated water. Stock multiple filters, keep purification tablets in sealed containers, and understand that these items have universal demand. Everyone needs water, which means everyone will trade for the ability to purify it. The second critical item is food. Preservation supplies, specifically salt, sugar, and vinegar. When refrigeration fails and fresh food spoils, preservation becomes essential for survival. Salt has been used for thousands of years to cure meat, preserve fish, and extend the life of vegetables. Sugar acts as a preservative and provides quick calories, which become precious when physical labor increases and food becomes scarce. Vinegar preserves food through pickling and also serves as a cleaning agent and mild disinfectant. These items are lightweight, have indefinite shelf lives when stored properly, and serve multiple purposes. During World War II, salt was rationed and became a valuable trading commodity. In modern Venezuela, sugar became so scarce that people traded electronics for a single bag. The beauty of these preservation supplies is their versatility and universal need. A family that managed to hunt game but has no way to preserve the meat will trade valuable items for salt. Someone with a garden producing more vegetables than they can eat fresh will desperately need vinegar for pickling. Stock these in bulk. They're inexpensive now, but will be worth a fortune when supply chains collapse. The third item that will always be in demand is fire-starting supplies. Fire provides warmth, cooks food, boils water for purification, and offers psychological comfort in dark times. When power grids fail and heating systems stop working, the ability to start fire becomes non-negotiable for survival, especially in cold climates. Lighters, waterproof matches, ferro rods, and magnesium fire starters are compact, lightweight, and incredibly valuable. A single Bic lighter can produce thousands of flames, but most people only have one or two in their homes. When those run out, they're in trouble. Matches get wet and become useless. This is where your stockpile becomes powerful. Buying lighters by the box is cheap now, perhaps 20 cents per lighter in bulk. But in a collapse scenario, one lighter could be worth a week's supply of food. To someone who's been trying to start fires with sticks for days, ferro rods are even better for bartering because they last for thousands of strikes and work in wet conditions. People who've never needed to think about fire starting will suddenly realize they can't cook, can't stay warm, and can't purify water without it. That desperation creates value. The fourth essential barter item is medical supplies and over-the-counter medications. When hospitals close, pharmacies are looted, and doctor visits become impossible, minor medical issues become life-threatening emergencies. A simple infection can kill without antibiotics. Pain from a tooth abscess becomes unbearable without painkillers. Diarrhea from contaminated water can cause fatal dehydration without anti-diarrheal medication. Stock items like bandages, gauze, medical tape, antiseptics like hydrogen peroxide and rubbing alcohol, pain relievers like ibuprofen and acetaminophen, anti-diarrheal medications, antibiotic ointments, and even basic first aid supplies like tourniquets and sutures if you know how to use them. These items are relatively inexpensive now, but will become priceless when unavailable. A mother whose child has a fever will trade almost anything for children's pain reliever. Someone with a deep cut will trade valuable food for bandages and antiseptic to prevent infection. The key is buying supplies with long shelf lives and storing them properly in cool, dry locations. Rotate stock to ensure effectiveness. Medical supplies are also compact and easy to transport, making them ideal barter goods. During the collapse of the Soviet Union, antibiotics and basic medications became black market currency. In rural areas without medical access, even during normal times, these supplies can mean the difference between life and death. The fifth item everyone will want is batteries and alternative power sources. In a world without electricity, anything that provides power becomes incredibly valuable. Flashlights, radios, and small electronic devices require batteries, but most people only keep a few spare batteries at home. When those die, they're in the dark, literally. Stock AA, AAA, C, D, and 9-volt batteries in bulk. Buy them on sale and store them in cool, dry places to maximize shelf life. Even better, invest in rechargeable batteries and small solar chargers. A solar charger that can power a radio or recharge batteries becomes worth a small fortune when it's the only source of power available. Hand crank radios and flashlights also make excellent barter items because they require no batteries and last indefinitely. Information becomes critical during disasters, and radios provide news, weather updates, and emergency broadcasts. A family sitting in darkness with no information will trade food, tools, or other supplies for a working flashlight or radio. During extended power outages from hurricanes, ice storms, or grid failures, battery supplies sell out immediately. Those who stockpiled them can trade for other necessities. The smart move is diversifying your power supply stockpile, some disposable batteries, some rechargeable with solar chargers, and some hand-crank devices. This gives you flexibility in trading and ensures you're meeting different needs. The sixth critical barter item is hygiene and sanitation supplies. When water is scarce and stores are empty, basic hygiene becomes a luxury that people desperately crave. Toilet paper, soap, toothpaste, feminine hygiene products, diapers, and wet wipes seem mundane now, but their value skyrockets when unavailable. During the COVID-19 pandemic, toilet paper became so scarce that people fought over it in stores and paid ridiculous prices online. That was just a temporary disruption with supply chains mostly intact. Imagine a true collapse where factories stop producing and trucks stop delivering. Toilet paper becomes gold. Soap prevents disease and infection, making it essential for health. Toothpaste prevents dental problems that can become agonizing without access to dentists. Feminine hygiene products are non-negotiable necessities for half the population. Diapers are essential for families with infants. These items are bulky, which is a downside for storage, but their universal need makes them incredibly valuable. A parent who runs out of diapers will trade almost anything for a pack. Someone dealing with poor hygiene and the discomfort and health risks that come with it will trade food for soap. Stock these items in quantity, especially compact options, like travel-size soaps, small toothpaste tubes, and biodegradable wet wipes. Hygiene supplies also have good shelf lives when stored properly. In disaster zones worldwide, hygiene kits are among the most requested items because people can survive without many things. But living without basic sanitation leads to disease, discomfort, and loss of dignity. The seventh and final item that will always be in demand is seeds and gardening supplies. When food shortages become long-term reality, the ability to grow food becomes survival itself. Seeds are compact, lightweight, and when properly stored can last for years. But not just any seeds. You need heirloom, non-GMO seeds that produce plants capable of creating new seeds. Most commercial produce today comes from hybrid seeds that don't reproduce reliably, making them useless for ongoing food production. Stock vegetable seeds like tomatoes, peppers, beans, squash, and leafy greens. Include herbs with medicinal properties like chamomile, peppermint, and calendula. Also consider fruit seeds and even grains if you have space. Beyond seeds, basic gardening tools like hand trowels, pruning shears, and hoes become valuable when people realize they need to grow food but lack the tools. Fertilizer, particularly organic options like bone meal and composted manure, will be in demand. Knowledge about gardening is itself a barter commodity. If you know how to grow food successfully, you can trade your expertise for goods. During the Great Depression, victory gardens fed millions of families. In Cuba during the special period after Soviet support collapsed, urban gardens became essential for survival. People who had seeds and knew how to use them survived. Those who didn't starved. A packet of seeds that costs $2 now could be traded for a week's worth of food when hunger becomes widespread. The person who can provide the means for others to feed themselves becomes invaluable in a collapsed society. Now let's talk about the reality of bartering itself, because having valuable items is only half the equation. Successful bartering in a collapse scenario requires intelligence, caution, and strategy. First, never reveal your full stockpile. The moment people know you have extensive supplies, you become a target for theft or violence. Barter from a position of appearing to have just enough, not abundance. Second, understand relative value. What something is worth depends entirely on what the other person needs at that moment. A lighter might be worth a can of food to one person, but worth a week's supply to someone freezing without fire. Learn to read people and negotiate accordingly. Third, establish trust carefully. In a world without law enforcement or legal contracts, your reputation becomes everything. Honor your trades, don't cheat people, and build relationships with reliable trading partners. Communities that establish barter networks and mutual trust survive better than isolated individuals. Fourth, consider security. Meet in neutral locations when possible, bring someone you trust, and stay alert. Desperate people do desperate things. Fifth, diversify your barter stockpile. Don't put all your resources into one category. If you've only stockpiled medical supplies but everyone around you also focused on medical supplies, you have nothing unique to offer. Balance your stockpile across all 7 categories we've discussed, plus tools, ammunition if legally permissible and you're trained, and skills-based services you can offer. Skills are actually an underrated form of barter currency. If you can repair equipment, provide medical care, purify water, preserve food, or teach others valuable survival skills, you have something that can't be stolen and doesn't require storage space. A person who can fix a broken water filter or repair a solar panel becomes worth their weight in food. Someone with medical training can trade treatments for supplies. A person who knows how to tan leather, make soap, or forge metal becomes indispensable. Invest time now in learning practical skills that will be valuable when modern conveniences disappear. Take first aid courses, learn basic carpentry and mechanical repair, study food preservation techniques, practice fire starting and water purification, and understand basic agriculture. These skills combined with physical stockpiles make you a valuable community member and successful barterer. Also consider the psychological aspect of bartering. Items that provide comfort, entertainment, or normalcy become surprisingly valuable when life is harsh and stressful. Alcohol, tobacco, coffee, chocolate, and tea might not be survival necessities, but people trade valuable resources for them because they provide psychological relief. During World War II, cigarettes became unofficial currency in many areas. Coffee was rationed and highly prized. These comfort items are controversial in prepper communities because they take up storage space and aren't strictly necessary, but they serve real purposes. They reduce stress, provide trading leverage, and can be used to build relationships. A person who shares coffee with neighbors builds goodwill. Someone who trades alcohol makes friends. These social bonds become protective networks. Obviously, prioritize true survival necessities first. But if you have extra space and budget, including some comfort items in your barter stockpile is strategically smart. One mistake many preppers make is hoarding precious metals like gold and silver for barter. While metals have historical value and might be useful for large transactions or preserving wealth long-term, they're practically useless in immediate post-collapse scenarios. You can't eat gold. You can't purify water with silver. When people are starving, a gold coin means nothing compared to a can of beans. Precious metals only regain value once some form of stable economy reemerges, which could take years or decades. Until then, practical goods with immediate utility are far more valuable. This doesn't mean metals are worthless, just that they shouldn't be your primary barter focus. Stock practical items first, metals later if you have excess resources. Another consideration is the legal and ethical dimension of bartering. In many jurisdictions, bartering is technically taxable income, though enforcement is difficult and unlikely during actual emergencies. More importantly, consider what you're willing to trade and what you're not. Some preppers refuse to trade weapons or ammunition because they don't want to arm potential threats. Others won't trade alcohol to people with substance abuse problems. These are personal decisions you need to make before crisis hits. Establish your ethical boundaries now so you're not making difficult moral choices under pressure. Also, consider vulnerable populations in your planning. Children, elderly, disabled individuals, and those with chronic medical conditions are most at risk during collapse scenarios. If you're in a position to help through fair trades or even charity when possible, you're building a more resilient community. Societies that protect their vulnerable members are stronger and more likely to survive long-term than those that embrace pure survival of the fittest mentality. Let's also address the timeline of collapse and how it affects bartering. The immediate aftermath is characterized by chaos, panic, and often violence. This is not the time for casual bartering. This is when you stay hidden and secure. Days to weeks after initial collapse, once immediate panic subsides and people start assessing their situations, informal bartering begins. This is when your stockpile becomes valuable. People realize what they're missing and start looking for solutions. Months into collapse, more organized barter systems emerge. Communities might establish market days or central trading locations. Trust networks form. Skills become increasingly valuable as initial stockpiles deplete. Years into collapse, some form of currency might reemerge, whether official or unofficial. Bottle caps, shells, or standardized commodities might become money equivalents. Understanding this timeline helps you plan what to stockpile and when to trade. Early stages favor compact, high-value items like medications and lighters. Later stages favor bulk commodities and skills. Storage and security of your barter stockpile is critical. There's no point having valuable items if they're stolen, damaged, or degraded. Store items in cool, dry, dark locations to maximize shelf life. Use airtight containers for items vulnerable to moisture. Rotate stock regularly, using oldest items first and replacing them. Keep an inventory so you know what you have. Divide your stockpile into multiple locations if possible, so a single theft or disaster doesn't wipe you out completely. Some preppers bury cash supplies in waterproof containers at secure locations. Others use hidden compartments in homes. The goal is protecting your assets while keeping them accessible when needed. Security means not advertising what you have. Operational security is everything. Don't post photos of your supplies online. Don't brag to neighbors. Keep your preparations private. The people who know you're prepared are the people who'll come to you when crisis hits, and not always with friendly intentions. Finally, understand that bartering is ultimately about community resilience. Humans are social creatures who survive better in groups. The lone wolf prepper fantasy is largely a myth. Even the most prepared individual eventually needs help, companionship, and specialized skills they don't possess. Bartering facilitates community building. When you trade fairly and build trust, you're creating networks that protect everyone involved. A neighborhood that barters and cooperates is far more defensible and sustainable than isolated households. Consider organizing now before crisis hits. Talk to trusted neighbors about mutual preparedness. Share skills and knowledge. Establish relationships. When collapse comes, these networks activate instantly instead of forming slowly through trial and error. This doesn't mean trusting everyone or revealing your full preparations, but it does mean recognizing that survival is ultimately a team effort. So when everything falls apart and money becomes meaningless, what will make you valuable? Clean water and purification supplies because everyone needs water every single day. Food preservation supplies like salt, sugar, and vinegar. because food spoilage means starvation. Fire starting supplies because warmth, cooking, and purification require fire. Medical supplies because injury and illness don't stop during collapse. Batteries and power sources because light and information provide safety and sanity. Hygiene and sanitation supplies because health and dignity matter. Seeds and gardening supplies because long-term survival means growing food. These 7 categories form the foundation of a smart barter stockpile. They're practical, affordable to acquire now, storable long-term, and universally needed. Stock them in quantity, protect them carefully, and use them strategically. The person who understands barter economics and prepares accordingly doesn't just survive, they thrive as a valuable community member. And if you want to go deeper, you'll find in the pinned comment some guides and documents that can take your preparedness to the next level. Check them out when you're ready. Don't just watch this and forget it. Take action now while supplies are available and affordable. Stock these items, learn the skills, build the networks. Share this information with people you trust because strong communities survive together. Like this video if you found it valuable. Comment with which items you're prioritizing. And subscribe because we're going to keep delivering the survival knowledge that others won't teach you. When the world collapses and everyone is scrambling, you'll be the one who's ready, and that makes all the difference.